Well, here we are back at Elkhart. And you didn't have to wait long for our very first moving train. We'd never get to see the power on it, but it was still nice to see. One of the main reasons we were here was to see this locomotive. New York Central 3001. This thing is soon to be moved to the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Allegedly, they're moving it in May. Now let's look at some of the stuff that's at the museum. Here we have a humongous crane, originally stationed at Selkirk, New York. This is the only museum piece I heard that is actually functioning and runs. And they move it to move things around the museum. We got a Conrail flat car with, I think, a crane tender on there. Here is a U.S. Post Office car. There's a little slot on the side of the car there that kind of is able to function as a mail or a post office. There's a little slot you can mail letters. And this car right here might look like a passenger car, but it's actually a interurban car, well, a street car, whatever you might want to call it, from the Chicago South Shoreline Railroad. Sadly, on this piece in particular, there is a lot of windows smashed out. It's never nice to see, and it's in bad shape. There's a lot of rust on there. Here's a little layout of the track at this end. We got 3 tracks that converge into 5. I think maybe even 6. And that way is the yard, along with some maintenance of way stuff. Sitting on the siding there. Now we're on the museum's running train. This is a little, I believe, 2-foot gauge track that runs around the museum. Back there you could see the GG1 4882. 2 honks, and there we go. And then that signal was recently donated, I believe, from Norfolk Southern directly. Over there you can see the other crane the museum has. This one is stationed in Harmon, New York. Some sort of black box car there, and a silver passenger car. I'm not sure what that is really. Maybe a combine or maybe a diner. Here is an Elkhart. This is painted by the museum to kind of, be a car lettered for the museum and stuff. That dark blue caboose there was from the Indiana Harbor Belt. The light blue one, I believe, is from the New York Central. There's another one of those Conrail flats, along with the crane from Selkirk earlier, along with the other one with the crane tender and the U.S. Post Office car and the Chicago Shoreline car there. This area will be a key point a little later in the video. You'll see a little later. On the second round, they do 2 rounds of the train. One to give you a little history on some of the equipment and kind of talk about all the other stuff. Here's the other side again. See, there's the Chicago South Shoreline car, post office car, and up here's the crane. There's the old crane there from Selkirk. I stopped again, talk about some stuff. Don't Took a little toots there to sound off departing. Then we headed on off. You can see there's the Selkirk crane, along with those two Conrail things, and a little car from a speeder. You can see there's a New York Central bay window caboose, and then the I believe that's a New York Central, like I said earlier, regular caboose. Indiana Harbor Bell transfer caboose there, and here is the Elkhart National New York Central Museum railroad car there. You can see the logo. They're gonna have to repaint that soon. And there's the other crane from Harmon, New York. And also there's some black boxcar. So now it went back through the shed there. And there's the GG1, and coming up here is the Mohawk. As mentioned earlier, that is getting moved to the Fort Wayne Museum. Also here in a moment you'll see the a crossing gate the museum has that actually works to cross the little pedestrian thing there. You can see there's a E8 at the museum there. Is a crossing gate. We got the signal up there. Now that's green, so we're gonna go a little faster now. Here's a GG1. I always find it weird how the GG1 has vents up in the front and not the back. I wonder if that's some sort of design choice, or maybe it's like they have some on the other side as well. I'm not sure. There's a blue or black box car there, and a crane, and you guys can see some of the other stuff that's here as well here in a moment. So at this time, I didn't know it, but there was a train coming. This train was led by 3 locomotives, an NS, a Union Pacific, and a CPKC, if you want to call it that. Really Canadian Pacific. It says Canadian Pacific on the side. It is a special unit here, as you'll see in a moment. I'm sad we didn't get to see it in, better conditions, but I'm glad we saw it at all, so. I think that should be here in a moment. I think I see it now. I'm panning toward it. Yeah, there it is. There's a UP, and then the third engine of interest on there. NS, UP, and then the Canadian Pacific. Every Child Matters, aka Canadian Pacific 8757. That was interesting to see. I didn't think we were gonna see that today. I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when it was coming, so if I knew it was coming then, I would have hopped off and seen it better. It was leading the grain train. I don't think there's anything too special on it. I wish it came just a little later and right here by the flat cars. But, hey, we saw it. That's what matters. So yeah, now we're gonna head back to the station and we'll be on to the next train. Here's the very next train of the video. This is led by a AC-44C6M and a Dash 9. My opinion, some of the coolest locomotives. My favorite locomotive is the Dash 9. Well, second favorite. But they had pretty good cars on it, honestly. It was a manifest with some pretty decent stuff on there. So, here's this train. At this moment, I heard a horn in the distance and decided to get on one of my favorite spots to see trains, which is on a old Conrail caboose. They let you climb up on. I thought it would be coming, but it was the very next train we would see that I heard at this moment. So now we're up there. So now here comes some of the more interesting rolling stock. Here comes, I believe, the very first one of the cooler cars. It is definitely a fan favorite railroad that is defunct now, but still shining bright in its light blue paint. So there's a very first good car in my opinion on the train. There's two more here at the end. It's a Rock Island hopper. Never seen one before, but I do have one in HO scale, so I was very excited to see that. But here, I believe, comes the end of the train, and seeing our last of our good freight cars on this train here in a moment. Just to recap, we've seen a Canadian Pacific, Every Child Matters unit, with a UP second, and now a Rock Island hopper and two heavy hauling cars. Now what else could be next on this day? And honestly, I wasn't expecting this at all, because I've never seen one before, and never thought I would see one leading a train. It is a Heritage 2 ES44 DC, BNSF. On BNSF, I'm pretty sure there is about 200 or so of these painted in H2. It's a GEVO, but it is in one of the coolest paint schemes. If I had to rank paint schemes, it would be H1 as my favorite, then YN2, and then H2. from my all-time favorite paint schemes. Honestly, I think BNSF has some of the coolest paint schemes. Even though it's very common, H3 still looks very nice. BNSF is probably one of the most vibrant railroads around today in the U.S. compared to what you usually see nowadays, which is either yellow and gray, blue and yellow, or white and black. This train, not only having the H2 ES44 DC leading, also had some very cool freight cars, along with a very unique DPU in a paint scheme I've never seen before. And sadly, it is not Heritage 1, but it is in the aforementioned Union Pacific paint scheme. In a moment here, I would hear another train sneaking up behind us, having a pretty cool consist, in my opinion. I was kind of bummed that this train wasn't clear, however, I was able to see the locomotive in question decently well. I believe at this moment I first started seeing the smoke of the next train that was supposed to be coming through. As mentioned, this had a pretty good lash up on it. It had the typical Norfolk Southern GEVO leading, an AC44 C6M, and third out, a Norfolk Southern GP38 and the Operation Lifesaver paint scheme. I have never seen one of these at this point, and trying to go get a better view of it, I noticed some flat cars just around the corner. So I took advantage of this opportunity and ran down to the other end to try to get a decent view of the Operation Lifesaver unit. And I got a decent view of it. You can see it down there in all its glory. Getting back to the platform, we see two, not one, but two of probably one of the rarest rail cars on the rails today. These are huge 89-foot box cars. Both of them lettered for Union Pacific, with the reporting mark of Missouri Pacific. If anybody can tell me what the R after the number is, I would like to know. These 89-foot boxcars are becoming rarer and rarer by the day because of their age. Most of these cars are nearing the end of their service life. Also note the National Railways de Mexico boxcar that just passed on the other track. We then see some coils being passing us with open shields, and a whopping about 6 to 7 more of those 89 footers. In CN, Norfolk Southern, and Union Pacific paint. This isn't the first time I have seen these cars before, but I was surprised to see the absolute volume on this train. There you can also see some of the older Canada government hoppers. And now coming up next, we got, after the other train passed, we got a Union Pacific DPU in the new paint scheme. I've never seen one of these before, and honestly, I can say this new paint scheme is kind of sad. I'm pretty sure this is one of the rebuild ones, just judging by the radiators. Also, note the open doors on the auto rack there. That is the last I believe, film of this train, but there wasn't anything too much special. I'm pretty sure this train has around 200 cars, which is quite a few. Now on to the next train, which has to be the shortest intermodal I've ever seen, with a BNSF GEVO at the point. And no, he's not forgetting cars, because you can see the flashing rear end devices on. Here's our very next train with a Canadian Pacific leader, being an AC-44. On top of a Canadian Pacific leader with a very, very cool crew. Also, note the Southern hopper on the head end of this oil train. There is also one more of these on the rear end, along with a DPU of a Canadian Pacific GEVO. In my opinion, oil trains are kind of like intermodal trains, because, frankly, they are all the same car. And there's usually not much variation between the tank cars. Once in a great while, there will be ones shinier than others, but that's basically the only difference. I also sometimes see buffer cars with special markings, in the case of this one, with two Southern hoppers at each end. I don't know what happened to the lens on this shot and the shot before it, but I did fix it after this. Here comes the end with yet another one of those Southern hoppers and a Canadian Pacific Gevo. For anybody wondering, this is an NS coal train with a leader of the number 4017. I didn't decide to finish filming this entire train though, because it was a coal train. And basically all the hoppers are black. And eventually, sometimes, once in a great while, silver, or in that case, red. Here's the second to last train of the video. This one being a Union Pacific lead auto rack. We were way down by the other end when I saw headlights. Decided to stop by the flat cars to get a look of this. Here's the last train with some bonus fire truck sirens in the background. This is the last train of the video with your standard Norfolk Southern Power leading a coal train. I did decide to finish fully filming this one because this was the last train of the video. In advance, I would like to thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on the next adventure. See you.